And welcome to Education, Leadership, and Beyond, Surviving and Thriving. My name is Andrew Murata, host of the show, and it is show number 163. Happy to be live here on Facebook. Happy to be a member of the Education Podcast Network, as well as Voice Ed Radio Canada, iTunes, wherever you are listening or watching. Really grateful to be part of all of those groups and to be on show number 163. It's great. I love the podcast. I love being live here on Facebook, and it's all good. So I appreciate you tuning in. If you are watching live today, leave myself and today's guest a comment or a question and get involved in the podcast. It's nice to be interactive. So don't be shy if you're watching live. But we are going to meet Kerri Greenwell here in a moment. Kerri is the 2021, in the middle of a pandemic, the 2021 Principal of the Year in Missouri, the high school Principal of the Year. And it's an honor to have her on. I got to meet Kerri out in the Ozarks a few weeks ago at the Missouri Conference, and here she is now on the podcast. Kerri, when you come on, my mom is watching, so we better be on our best behavior. My mom's my number one fan, so I appreciate her support. And again, thanks for tuning in. So let's get started. A couple of announcements, a couple of commercials. May 1st, I am running a free book writing workshop. It is on my website. You could sign up. Many school leaders, many leaders out there have asked about how'd you do it, Andrew? How'd you write the book? How'd you get going with it? And I want to share a little bit about that journey. May 1st, it's on my website. Kind of not how to write a book, but how to get going with it, how to do it. Should I self-publish? Do I need a publisher? A lot of Q&A, things like that. So a little commercial there. And to kick off today's show, a little story, right? Kerri's a busy principal. I'm a busy principal. I'm juggling stuff. I may or may not have shorts on under my dress shirt here because I'm going to go running. I'm going to get some exercise, and then I have a school function later tonight. So I got to juggle all those things, and how do we do it, right? So the story is of Roger Bannister, Sir Roger Bannister, Oxford, England, 1954. Roger Bannister was the first person who broke the 4-minute mile. Roger Bannister was also a medical student. And how can a medical student break the worldwide record there for the first person to run a 4-minute mile? Well, Roger Bannister skipped a different class each day so he could do his training. He only trained for about an hour a day. So it's not what you put into, it's not the time that you put in. It's what you put into the time. We as school leaders, you got to be engaged in the time. You got to be selective how you spend your time. You could get lost scrolling on your phone or Facebook, things like that. So it's important how you spend your time. It's a great story. You want to learn more about that. Sir Roger Bannister was a medical student when he broke the 4-minute mile. And you would think it's someone training 8 hours a day, all in, private trainer, all of that. No, he was a med student and he broke it. So I encourage you as a school leader, maximize your time, and you can't go to everything, right? I'm going to ask Kerri about what she's doing to juggle her busy life as well. And let's have me stop talking and let's bring Kerri into the program here. And boom, there she is live from Missouri. Welcome, Kerri Greenwell, to Education, Leadership, and Beyond.
Hi, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and welcome, Kerri. Again, as I said in the pregame or the pre-show, we had a chance to meet in Missouri. And Kerri, you are the 2021 MOSAP, as they told me, but the Missouri High School Principal of the Year. Congratulations.
Thank you. It's quite the honor.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about that. And I know as the principal, you never want to brag or boast. I know it's all about your school and all about your staff, and they supported you. But tell me, Kerri, tell our audience here about winning that award and what it's meant for you, your school district, your family.
Mm-hmm. So it is a big honor, first of all. I'm very blessed to work where I do. And I do give credit for the people that I work with. But I know that I was elected as the Northeast Missouri we have regions in Missouri. So our Northeast region, they selected me through a secret ballot vote to be the representative for the Northeast part of Missouri. And then that sent me on into the finals for the Missouri Principal of the Year. And then I was chosen as that, and was completely shocked at a pep rally one day. So they had planned for several weeks to present this award to me. And we had bad weather days in Missouri. We had almost 8 days in 2 different weeks where we could not be in school due to our rural community. You know, we don't have a lot of, we are very rural. I'll explain that later to you. But so we did have 4 days in 2 different weeks where we didn't have school. So they kept having to change this assembly. And so we were going into district basketball. We were having our annual district basketball pep rally. And we went through all of that, and I'm standing at the back wall like normal, watching the kids, making sure they're behaving. And then I noticed that Mrs. Gaines, our superintendent, had the microphone. And I thought, well, she's going to give one of her pep talks that she does occasionally. And so then the next thing I saw were Doug Mertz and Clark Mershon walking in from they were, you know, the head directors and of Missouri Association of Secondary School Principals. So then I was trying to take a deep breath because I knew something big was going to happen. But the next thing that happened, my husband and my sister-in-law and my sisters and my parents walked in. And I had not seen my parents since Thanksgiving.
Wow.
And I mean, for a while because of COVID, and we were social distancing, and we talk on the phone daily or things like that, but they had not been to anything like that. And so then I was really like, oh no, what's going to happen? And my son had texted me that morning and congratulated me. He's a student at Mizzou, and I didn't know what he was talking about. And so we were texting back and forth, and I still said, I don't know what you're talking about. And he said, oh, gotcha, Mom, ha ha. And so all of this, I'm just still in my principal mode going, we're doing my job. And then they surprised me with that award, and it was huge. So
wow.
it was very nice. So
what a beautiful story. What a nice surprise set up by your district. And Kerri, we're going to learn about why you won the award, but you mentioned about your district. Like, where are you in Missouri? We're located here an hour and a half northwest of New York City, in Port Jervis, New York. Beautiful. But where are you if I'm looking at the map of Missouri? And tell me a little bit about the culture of your district.
Okay, so we are located in Northeast Missouri, approximately 45 minutes from Hannibal, Missouri, which is the home of Mark Twain. We're about 45 minutes from Kirksville, Missouri, about an hour and a half north of Columbia, Missouri. And we are, if you were to drive down the road to find our school, you're going to find corn and soybeans on both sides, cattle. I mean, our kids are farm kids. A lot of them are farm kids. Good work ethic.
How far from Missouri? I mean, Missouri. How far from St. Louis?
2.5 hours, probably.
Okay. Wow. Okay.
And about 3 hours from Kansas City, probably.
Okay. So, all right. Well, very good. So, Kerri, and again, I know you don't want to brag. My dad used to say SPS, self-paced things. But what are some of the things that you believe is why they picked you as Principal of the Year? Tell me about your leadership and your impact on that school community.
Well, I think part of it is my passion for kids and my heart for kids. I'm probably not the typical old style principal necessarily. I am more about relationships, and not saying that other principals aren't, but it's a lot about relationships and building the relationships with your students, their parents, and your staff and your community. And that's what I'm about. If it doesn't matter what the kid is, what the kid's doing, we're going to try to work through it together, whether it's positive or negative. So that's a lot of my leadership style, I would say. Communication is huge, and I know I lack in that sometimes just because of the busyness of the job.
Sure.
But try to make sure that we're all on this, at least everybody is aware of what's going on and trying to work together as a team.
Okay. And if you're watching live, again, I'd love for you to jump in and ask Kerri a question or get involved in the show. Kerri, you also taught in that school for 18 years, right? Like, you were a veteran teacher. You know, and so what made you then make the change at that point in your career, right? Because you were past the, like, you know, the halfway point. You were past, you know, normally you teach 7, 8, 9 years, right? And then you make the leap. You were there 18 years as a teacher. What made you make that change, and how has that helped you to where you are now?
First of all, I am a graduate of North Shelby, which I don't know if you knew that.
Wow.
So I went away and taught 3 years at a different district before I came back here. And my former English teacher retired. And so I was able to get her job after she retired. And so I taught English for 18 years here. And I played basketball here. I am a hometown, very full of pride about my school. And it came from those days as a Lady Raider. And as I moved into into that occupation of education, because I knew I always wanted to help people someday. Just coming back home, my first niece was born the year I moved back home. And so I wanted to be an aunt. I wasn't married at the time. And so I just moved into that English position and helped coach here. So when the transition went into administration, I actually received my master's degree in 2001, which was the same year I had my first child, and realized then was not the time to be a principal because I was a new mom and I wanted to be a mom too. So then our principal, who was the principal when I was teaching at the last 6 years or whatever, he had decided to retire and go back part-time as an ag teacher. And I had a little bit of fear of who's going to step into that office and sit at that desk. And I decided that now was the time. My kids were older. My husband was supportive. So I decided now's the time to take the leap. And if it's meant to be, it will happen. And if it's not, it will be some other time. And so I was able to interview with the panel of teachers and superintendent, and then with the board, and get this job in 2014.
Wow.
So.
Well, congratulations. You went to school, you taught there, that's fantastic. And so being in that building that long, being in that community that long, is that a benefit to you now in the role that you serve? Or is it something that they all know you, there's too much familiarity? I know there's pluses and minuses. Tell me a little bit about both of those.
So I think the pluses are that I am from here. I know the expectations of the district. I know the core values, what we're about, and we do have high expectations. So I wanted to maintain those. One of the hardest things is transitioning from that teacher who used to not like to go to the professional development meetings to having to lead those professional development meetings as the principal, or the teachers you were friends with. Well, now there's a little bit of difference. You're still friends, but yet you can't always be friends, and that's a difficult transition.
Yeah.
But communication helps with that.
Absolutely. And you touched on that before, Kerri. So what are some ways that you think you excel in communication, right? Because relationships, it's a two-way street, communication. But tell me some of the things that you do to help communicate. So maybe some different avenues or different techniques that you do in that area.
Well, one thing, first of all, I like to go to the person and have a discussion, because I think that still verbal communication is important. And I feel like in the times we live in now, it's much easier to do it electronically through text message or an email or whatever. And I do send a lot of emails, but try to make them meaningful, I guess. Not one of those rambling, oh, there's another email, I'm going to read that later. So I have a Monday memo that I create every weekend, and I send that out to the teachers first thing on Monday mornings. And it's the events of the week, what's going to happen, the times. I always include the student birthdays for that week, and we put those up on our announcement screen on the TV so that people see whose birthday is that week. And then I try to include some kind of teaching strategy video or a quote, motivational quote or something to inspire them for that week as well. So that's one form of communication I use. We post a lot of congratulatory information and school information on our school Facebook page and our community bulletin. So as far as with my teachers, it's person, face to face. They know I have an open door policy. And then if the door is closed, that means there's something really seriously going on, or closed door conversation or a phone call. So
Yeah. Okay. And Kerri, what do you think of the opening story in terms of maximizing your time? You had to juggle some things around and move some things to make this happen, but you made it happen, and you're present and you're here. But what did you think about that, right? It's not necessarily the time that you put in, but it's what you put into the time. What were your thoughts on that?
I think that's very true. Being a principal in a small district, I supervise majority of the events, and so I could be gone 4 out of 5 nights a week, because
Wow.
Wednesdays we're usually off unless there's a board meeting. So tonight I'm missing my son's track meet, and there's a baseball game that's going to start here at 5 o'clock, and so I have to pick and choose. It's really good to work with my superintendent and our AD, because they cover for me when I need to be at my own kids' events. So I only have one kid left in school here to, follow around. So, but he plays all sports all season long. So, we're fall, winter, and spring now. So.
Wow. And you mentioned those boys, your 2 sons, your husband, it's you and 3 guys in the house, Kerri,
Yeah.
How has that helped you in your role as a school leader? You're around teenage boys all the time as a principal here, being around all those guys. Has that helped you in your role?
I think so. I think they probably think I'm harder on them because I am their mom and their principal, but thankfully they are good boys, that we just don't have too much trouble with them at times. But they give me a hard time. They like to tease me, but I can give it back. So we're good with that. But there's never a dull moment. They are funny and into sports and outdoors, and it's I don't know what my life would be like without that busy feeling. So I don't know what retirement will ever look like.
Well, hopefully, I mean, again, you're doing the job well, and you'll continue to do that. Kerri, let me ask you this question, right? When a man is strong and assertive, and they'll say he's tough or strong leadership. You live with men, you have boys in the school, but when a woman does that, sometimes they might use a different adjective. I work with a strong assistant principal here, and she's a great leader, and I admire her in a lot of ways. But sometimes women get a bad rap when they're a strong leader. They use a different word. What are your thoughts on that? How can a woman be strong and assertive and aggressive at times without being frowned upon or without being looked upon that she's off-putting or something like that?
Well, I think determination. I'm a very determined person usually. So I think my work ethic also helps with that, because I don't know if it matters if you're male or female, but if you put the time and the work into something, then you should reap the benefits for it eventually. And that's how I was brought up, to work hard for what you want, and to not give up. You don't let COVID stop you. You don't all those things that can really throw your year out of whack when you're a principal. But determination, strong will, level-headed, try to think of things from all different viewpoints before reacting. And I can react too quickly sometimes, and people who know me would know that. So, but I try to think before I speak. So.
And we've learned that over time, haven't we?
Yes, you grow, you mature, and you learn from your mistakes. So.
Absolutely, and we got to forgive ourselves, right? We got to keep moving on. Tomorrow there's a new day. There's another teacher, and and again, we spoke about at the conference in my session there about the 5 SWs, right? Sometimes it will, sometimes it won't. So what? Someone's waiting, so stick with it. We have to have that ability to keep moving on. You're also a hoopster. You mentioned about all the sports you're involved with, but you played high school and college basketball.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about that. I was a hoops guy too. I was a college official. But tell me about your life as a hoops gal, and how has that served you?
Well, that was a long time ago, so it served me 2 knee replacements.
Wow.
But, no, seriously, that was my life. probably my sophomore through my sophomore year, probably my sophomore year of high school through my sophomore year of college was all I did. When I wasn't doing my homework or working at a job or something, we were at the courts in Shelbyville playing basketball, or we were in the gym, or we were at some traveling team event or show me games or league night. We had a strong team then, and that's what we were. And so that got me scholarships to college that helped pay for my education.
Yeah.
And then I blew my ACL my freshman year, January of my freshman year. And then I had to have that ACL repaired in February. So I was out 6 months or more, rehabbing all of that, and then came back to play my sophomore year and had the big chunky brace that they don't make anymore because they make them much smaller and lighter and they fit better. But so I went through that, and that was a very character building time in my life because I realized that I probably didn't have my priorities quite straight and that there was more to life than basketball. And so that made me reflect quite a bit. And then played again my sophomore year. But then the doctor told me, if you want to bike and swim with your kids when you're in your 40s, you probably need to give up college sports.
Wow.
And so my coach was, he was nice enough and gracious enough to extend my scholarship and help me. I was still part of the team as the sports information director and helped with the JV team. And so they still kept me in the loop with the team. I mean, I'm still part of the team, and I met some really great girls. They are some of my best friends from those days, are those girls that you met while playing basketball. So,
yeah. Wow, that's amazing, Kerri. And tell me about the adjustment for you, not being the driving force on the court, but maybe someone helping support the team. Tell me about that adjustment.
Well, at first you go through that, oh, woe is me. Yeah. I can't believe this happened. I'm never going to be able to be what I was. And I was starting on the varsity team when this happened. And it was, as a freshman, and it's a small school, yes, but it meant something to me. And there were some other girls that had injuries as well. So we were there together to pick each other up, I guess, and help each other through that detrimental moment when you realize that your life has changed with your sports. But honestly, the things you go through to rehab that knee and the pain you go through, and as much time as I spent in the trainer's room, I met more people and just my faith and my reading my Bible and it just was something that helped me, I think, grow closer to God. And that's probably maybe why it happened. I just needed to get my priorities straight at that time in my life. So.
Wow. That's a great story. And here you are, right, supporting the team and all of that, and you're doing that's wow. Because I loved sports too, and that drives me today, and that drove me as an official as well. But I think that sports background is just great for all leaders to have. So good for you, and good for you about being so involved with your school community and sports, and that's awesome when you have a leader that knows the value of sports. So
yeah, I just think it's character building, and you do have to work hard if you want to excel, and you have to take your chewing outs and learn how to let them roll, because I didn't when I was younger, and I did as I got older. So that helps too.
So Kerri, you had to step away from playing sports, and that's an outlet for a lot of people, right? So happy to have our kids back playing again. How now, do you have that outlet? What are some things that you do as a leader to de-stress, some things to do to kind of get away from school and kind of take your mind off things? So what are some tips that you would have?
Well, first of all, it took a while, but I had to learn to realize there are things I cannot control. And so you have to let those go. And sometimes that's hard for me to let it go and not think I can fix something. And that was the way I felt at the beginning of the school year when we were still dealing with the coronavirus and the pandemic. And I was having to put kids in quarantine. And I just when that happened, I had to realize I cannot control COVID. I just have to do my job and keep the kids safe as best I can. And so that's what I did there.
And you can't control the phone, either.
Yeah. So yeah, the phone's ringing and I'm going to ignore it. So
it's all good. No worries.
But I do have to unplug sometimes because my phone could be dinging at all different hours, so I have to put that away sometimes. One of the things I do, I like to read, so I escape in some kind of, usually a psychological thriller, but I also read motivational books and things, my Bible. And then the other thing I like to scrapbook. And so I like to keep the memories of my kids and their events going. And I'm way behind on that because once you become a principal, there isn't time to get those things organized. But I do like to do that and make handmade cards. So
nice.
I have a paper collection. So
yeah. So now is your youngest son, he's in school with you now?
Yes, he's a junior here.
What's that like being the principal and the mom in the same building?
Well, he would have a different opinion probably because I tend to know when things are going on, or I'm sure we are one of the only schools in the United States that still has a no facial hair policy. so we have
wow.
Yeah, so there are razors and shaving cream in my office, and so at home, or if he's riding in the car with me and I see a little bit of facial hair, I'm like, oh, you need to shave when we get to school, or did you shave last night? And I know he gets sick and so sick and tired of hearing that, but that's just one of the little things. But overall, it's good to have the boys here because it worked in my schedule because we live in a different school district. And so when they were young, it wouldn't work in my husband or my schedule to really figure out who's going to watch them after school. And so they just came to school with me since kindergarten, and they've grown up at school, so they know.
Yeah. So tell me about that, Kerri. That seems very old-fashioned. And I grew up watching the Yankees, and you couldn't have that at the Yankees. But what's that rule all about?
That rule has been in the book, I bet, since 1970 something. I don't know. And the board has maintained that all these years, even though we've had some people, question it or come to the board about it. And I think it's because of our expectations. The kids look clean. They look, not that people with facial hair don't look clean, but when they're teenage boys and they've got scruffy, I don't know. It's just, they have, I don't know. It's very interesting because it gets challenged every 5 to 10 years. And it's still standing. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how long it goes.
Sure. We had in Port Jervis, New York, years ago, went to the Supreme Court. You can look it up. Hats in school, and there was no hats, right? And it went to the Supreme Court, and the ruling was you could have them at school, you could have them in the hallways, you can't have them in the classroom because it was deemed a distraction to the educational process. That's kind of faded away. We have some that say, hey, you got that old-fashioned kind of take your hat off indoors, but we don't.
I'm sure this could be challenged.
Well, we'll move on from the facial hair.
Move on, please. Yeah, let's not go there.
Well, another one of your passions. It seems you really love where you are, and that's heartwarming to hear. But really, growing and attracting teachers to your district is something that you've really gotten into. And tell me about that. Why is it that you think that's important? And what are some things that you do to attract and retain those teachers?
It's pretty interesting because at our district, very few are not graduates from here or not married to a graduate from here. So that just goes to show, again, people know what we're about here. And I think that it's a great place to work because of that. So those people help maintain those high expectations that we have and our core values. So to maintain that, we do a couple things, but one thing in Missouri, we have what's called A+. I don't know if you've heard of the A+ schools program. It's through the state of Missouri. If a school is designated as A+, their students have certain requirements that they have to make to receive A+ eligibility, which would help pay for tuition at a junior college or vo-tech school in Missouri.
Oh, wow.
So they have to maintain 4 years of 95% attendance, no citizenship violations, certain things, and they are required to tutor. So we have our tutoring are set up during our class times, where if a student can't take a certain class, they might go down to the elementary and tutor. Or if they're good at science, they might help with the junior high science. And so those kids learn at an early age if they are cut out for education or not. So they, we have one girl who tutored in, I think, pre-K. She's almost ready to graduate with her elementary education degree. And so that's somebody that we think, well, we would be interested in interviewing her. For the future, because as you know, seems to be a critical shortage for teachers, and it's not just science and math anymore. We're short on agriculture teachers, art teachers, first grade teachers, and I think part of that is due to the pandemic. But
well, yeah, good for you for bringing that out and doing that. It's so important, and kudos for you for doing that and bringing great people back to your district. That's awesome.
And we do, we allow student teachers to come into the district, and people come in and observe. We just had a teacher in today to observe our English department from another district, just to see what goes on here. So it's
cool.
It's nice to, and like pre-COVID, we were more into letting people come visit or observe or whatever. And hopefully things are getting better now. We're hoping that things will be more normal. So
we're all hoping. Kerri, this has been great. Before we get to rapid fire, Kerri, you're an award-winning principal. You're leading a district in a small community in the middle USA. What is something else you wanted to share for all of the leaders listening? We have school leaders and different types of leaders listening from New York to California to Texas. What is something that you would say to a school leader or even a parent or possibly a student, right? This time or a year plus of COVID, what would you offer them?
Keep the faith, keep running the race. I think that's all we can do. And I follow a lot of people on Twitter, but one of my motivational people is John Gordon. And he has so many positive quotes, and I will follow him on Twitter and Facebook and everything. And I just think some of the things that he says are really good that I try to follow. But one of them is, God has something great for you, but you must take action with faith and go through a battle to seize it. It's never going to be easy. It's not supposed to be. The struggle builds your character, fosters humility, develops your strength, and makes you appreciate the journey. And I think that's what we do. We keep on keeping on, and then you have to appreciate it in the end and hope that it all works out. So I don't know. That's just how it is.
Yeah, I like it. A gratitude mindset. A big fan of John Gordon as well. I think he might watch the show.
Oh, really? Tell him hi. I hope he's listening.
Kerri Greenwell says hi. Kerri, here we go. These are rapid fire questions. The quick answer, the first thing that comes to your head. Are you ready?
I am ready.
She's got a track meet to go to, a baseball game to go to. Here we go. Last book you read.
The Guest House, I believe it was called.
Okay. Last movie you saw.
Oh, the last movie I saw in a theater would probably have.
It could be. We saw Kong versus Godzilla in the house. They're all in the house.
Okay. Yeah. Oh man. Last movie. That's not very rapid, is it? I haven't been to very many movies lately, so
you can take a pass. It's all good.
I'll say Star Wars. It's not it, but go ahead. My kids have watched them all, so.
I love it. There's a blog coming out this week, little commercial about C-3PO. Okay. Favorite place to travel?
My favorite place so far is London.
Oh.
Yeah.
What brought you there?
We actually took a group of students there. We went to London and Paris on a group trip and had a really great time. So awesome. I would go back. Yeah.
My wife lived a year there. It's a really cool place, and hopefully soon we can travel. How about your favorite music?
I listen to all genres. I listen to current Christian music. I'm an 80s rock girl, a little bit of country depending, but yeah, I'm pretty much an 80s girl.
Jesse's girl.
Yeah.
Most challenging part of being a principal?
Most challenging part? Making difficult decisions that you know will impact somebody else's life.
Good answer. A pet peeve of yours, something that gets under your skin?
People chewing with their mouth open. That's just one of them. I have lots of them.
My wife is listening. I'm guilty. Sorry. I don't feel like doing or being blank at 4 o'clock.
4 o'clock p.m. or a.m.?
p.m.
Oh, I don't feel like doing or being
blank.
Anything. But that's not true.
You can take a pass there. When people walk into your high school, what do you hope they notice or say about your school?
I hope they notice the positive culture, the cleanliness. We have good custodial staff. It keeps it clean. The floors are shiny. It's an older building, but we usually get a lot of compliments on how well it's maintained. And just the welcomeness that people are welcome in our building.
Nice. Best purchase under $100 that has had a great impact on your life?
Under $100? Thinking. My Bible.
You're a strong woman in your faith.
Try to be, yes.
Amen. I had communion for the first time, and we're Catholic, and first time in a long time I was at a family service this past weekend. So, amen. Something about Kerri Greenwell that people do not know about.
Anything? I don't know if it's interesting or not. I mean, I've been to the top of the Eiffel Tower. I have titanium knees now. I didn't used to. Actually, I have more metal from my knees down probably than most people have in their teeth when they have braces. But yeah, I've had several surgeries.
Do they call you the bionic woman?
Somewhat. I can't go through an airport. I have to carry my gold card. They have to check out everything if I can't walk through those metal detectors. But
how about Missouri now? Living in Missouri is fill in the blank.
Is one of the greatest places to live. And another fact, Shelbyville is the home of Coach Norm Stewart, who was the coach at Missouri Tigers for a long time. So he graduated from Shelbyville High School before we consolidated our towns to be North Shelby. So
nice. The MOASSP, the Missouri Association of Secondary School Principals Conference, was fill in the blank.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Energizing, renewing. I thought it was wonderful, and I appreciate all the work that everybody puts into that conference, because I know behind the scenes it takes a lot of work. So.
And you were honored there and recognized there, and kudos to you for winning that award. Kerri, you had a great quote there, and you mentioned about giving quotes to your staff. Do you have another one that sticks out to you?
Probably. There's a few here, but I had flagged some of them anyway. But 5 F's for team success. You probably have heard that. 1 is fight for each other. 2 is faith, keep believing. 3, fun, enjoy it. 4, focus, tune out the distractions. And 5 is finish strong. So
I like that. I have not heard that. I might have to pick that up with my 5 SWs. And
then I also I keep them on my phone. Like if I see a good quote, I screenshot it and sometimes have to look back at them again. But I was an English teacher, so that's why I like quotes. Absolutely. Kerri did a great job. We're right at the 40-minute mark here.
which ends our podcast time together. But this is Kerri Greenwell from North Shelbyville, Missouri. Kerri did a nice job, and I appreciate you coming on.
I appreciate your invitation to be on your podcast. I really do. Thank you.
Yeah, and I want to celebrate our leaders out there for that MOASP group, as they pronounced it. It was just a great group of leaders, and you mentioned Clark and Doug and their group. So, but congratulations to Kerri and her school district and her family. Kerri, I have your Twitter there, but if someone wanted to talk to you further about how to connect and maybe doing some of the things that you're doing as a school leader, how could they get in touch with you?
They can email me at Kerri. You want the email or?
Sure, yeah.
It's Kerri, Kerrig at nshelby.k12.mo.us. They can message me on Twitter. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. So yeah, they can get a hold of me.
She's connected, everybody. She's connected. Cool. Well, this was great. We're going to tune out here. Kerri, you stay on the line a second. But this is Andrew Marotta here on Education, Leadership, Beyond. This was show number 163. Kerri Greenwell. We're going to sign off. If I could help you in any way, don't hesitate to reach out at Andrew Marotta 21. And again, if you're interested in getting writing, you're interested in writing a book, come join my workshop May 1st. Thanks for tuning in, everyone, and have a great day. Keep rolling. And I like those 5 F's: fight, faith, fun, focus, and finish. Kerri Greenwell, everyone. Thanks, Kerri.
Thank you.
All right. Stay on there. Stay on that.